Hello, and welcome to study session number 9 over the 2021 IRC. This study session will be over chapters 10 and 11, which are chimneys and fireplaces and energy efficiency. So our objective in this study session is to obtain an understanding of the provisions for chimneys and fireplaces, as well as the requirements for energy efficient design and construction. Our reference today is going to be chapters 10 and 11 from the 2021 International Residential Code. Key points for this session: how must a masonry fireplace be supported and reinforced? What is the minimum thickness of masonry fireplace walls? What's the maximum width of joints between fire bricks? And how are steel fireplace units regulated? What is the minimum required depth of a fire box in a masonry fireplace? How about in a Rumford fireplace? Of what material must a lintel be constructed? And what's the minimum required bearing length at each end of the lintel? And where is the fireplace throat to be located? What construction materials are permitted for hearths and hearth extensions? And what's the minimum thickness of a hearth extension? And what are the minimum dimensions of a hearth extension? What is a masonry heater? How must it be supported and reinforced? When is reinforcement mandated in the construction of a masonry chimney, and how must such chimneys be supported? Where are masonry chimneys prohibited from changing size or shape, and how shall corbelling be done? How about offsets? At what minimum height is a masonry chimney required to terminate? What are the requirements for spark arresters installed on masonry chimneys? What are the various methods and materials used as flue linings? And how are multiple flues to be constructed? And what methods are provided for determining the minimum required flue area? When is a chimney cleanout opening required? And where must it be located? How far must combustible material be located from a masonry chimney located in the interior of a building? How about located entirely outside of a building? How is a factory-built chimney regulated? When is an exterior air supply required? What is the relationship between the energy provisions of the IRC and the residential energy provisions of the International Energy Conservation Code? What is a low energy building, and what energy provisions of the IRC are not applicable to such buildings? What is a climate zone and how is it determined? And how does the climate zone relate to the energy efficiency requirements? How must insulation be labeled? And when is a certificate of compliance permitted? And how shall the insulation information be permanently identified in an attic area? What are the prescriptive requirements regulating the building thermal envelope? And what specific insulation requirements must be met? How is the performance of fenestration regulated, replacement fenestration, and recessed light fixtures? What methods are established to limit air leakage of the thermal envelope, and what manner of testing is required? How are fireplaces to be regulated, fenestration, and recessed lighting? What type of thermostat is required, and how many thermostats must be provided? How are ducts to be insulated and sealed? And finally, what criteria are established when using simulated energy performance analysis, and what documentation is required? Now, before we jump in, I want to make sure that you all have your code books, because at the end of this session, just like all the other sessions, we'll have a 35 question quiz that I'm going to ask you to stop the recording after I ask the question, look up the answer, and then come back and we'll give you the answer. So with that in mind, we're going to jump in footings and foundations based in section 1001.2. Footings for masonry fireplaces and their chimneys shall be constructed of concrete or solid masonry not less than 12 inches thick and shall extend not less than 6 inches beyond the face of the fireplace or foundation wall on all sides. Footings shall be founded on natural, undisturbed earth or engineered fill below frost depth. In areas not subjected to freezing, footings shall be not less than 12 inches below finished grade. So because of the extensive weight of a masonry fireplace and chimney, the foundation is likely to support a greater load than the foundation for the surrounding construction. The minimum size mandated is expected to carry such a load. The relationship between the building foundation and the fireplace chimney foundation must be considered in order to avoid detrimental settling. Similar to other conventional foundation systems, the bottom of the footing must extend below the frost line to eliminate the potential for movement due to freeze-thaw conditions. It is critical that the footing and foundation provide a solid base to avoid any possible settlement. Firebox walls, section R1001.5. Masonry fireboxes shall be constructed of solid masonry units, hollow masonry units grouted solid, stone, or concrete. Where a lining of fire brick not less than 2 inches thick or other approved lining is provided, the total minimum thickness of back and side walls shall each be 8 inches of solid masonry, including the lining. The width of joints between fire bricks shall not be greater than 1/4 inch. Where a lining is not provided, the total minimum thickness of back and side walls shall be 10 inches of solid masonry. So a variety of non-combustible materials is acceptable for the construction of masonry fireplaces. Where an approved lining is provided, the total masonry thickness is reduced from that needed where no lining is installed. Care should be taken to limit the joint width between fire bricks in order to reduce the potential for joint deterioration. Steel fireplace units may use 1/4 inch thick steel liner, airspace, and a minimum 4 inches of solid masonry to create a minimum total thickness of 8 inches at the back and the sides of the unit. Non-combustible warm air ducts may be included with circulating type airtight fireplace units. Fireplace dimensions, IRC 1001.6. The firebox of a concrete or masonry fireplace shall have a depth of not less than 20 inches. The throat shall be not less than 8 inches above the fireplace opening. The throat opening shall be not less than 4 inches deep. The cross-sectional area of the passageway above the firebox, including the throat, damper, and smoke chamber, shall be not less than the cross-sectional area of the flue. See the exception for Rumford fireplaces. So to provide for positive drafting, the size of the firebox is regulated, as is the location and depth of the throat opening. These criteria are based on many years of trial and error in the construction of fireplaces and chimneys. Now, the Rumford fireplace, designed by Count Rumford in the 18th century, was common worldwide until about 1850. Rumford fireplaces are tall and shallow to reflect more heat, and they have streamlined throats to eliminate turbulence and remove smoke with little loss of heated room air. Hearth and hearth extensions, sections 1001.9 and 1001.10. The minimum thickness of fireplace hearths shall be 4 inches. The minimum thickness of hearth extensions shall be 2 inches. See the exception for permitted reduction in hearth extension thickness. Hearth extensions shall extend not less than 16 inches in front of and not less than 8 inches beyond each side of the fireplace opening. Where the fireplace opening is 6 square feet or larger, the hearth extension shall extend not less than 20 inches in front of and not less than 12 inches beyond each side of the fireplace opening. The hearth is the floor of the firebox, whereas the hearth extension is the projection of the hearth beyond the firebox opening. The purpose of the hearth extension is to provide a non-combustible area adjacent to the opening where sparks, embers, and ashes from the firebox may fall without the risk of igniting combustible floor materials. Always non-combustible, a hearth extension must be a minimum of 2 inches thick unless the bottom of the firebox opening is located at least 8 inches above the top of the hearth extension. Under such conditions, the hearth extension need only be 3/8 inch thick material. Firebox clearance, section 1001.11. Wood beams, joists, studs, and other combustible materials shall have a clearance of not less than 2 inches from the front faces and sides of masonry fireplaces, and not less than 4 inches from the back faces of masonry fireplaces. See the 4 exceptions for permitted reductions in clearance. Radiant heat transfer through the materials used to construct a masonry fireplace and or chimney necessitates a minimum separation between the masonry and combustible materials, such as wood floor, wall, or roof framing. Radiant heat transfer, and to some degree direct flame impingement, are also of considerable concern at the firebox opening. Therefore, a minimum distance is mandated between the opening and any adjacent combustible material. Combustible woodwork, including trim or mantles, may be placed directly on the front of a masonry fireplace, provided such materials are not located within 6 inches of the fireplace opening. The projection of any combustible materials is strictly regulated where located within 12 inches of the opening, with a limitation of 1/8 inch of projection for each 1 inch distance from the opening. Corbelling, section R 1003.5. So masonry chimneys shall not be corbelled more than 1/2 of the chimney's wall thickness from a wall or foundation, nor shall a chimney be corbelled from a wall or foundation that is less than 12 inches thick unless it projects equally on each side of the wall, with the exception for second story of a 2-story dwelling. The projection of a single course shall not exceed 1/2 the unit height or 1/3 the unit bed depth, whichever is less. Corbelling occurs where masonry projects from a chimney surface in small increments as the chimney extends vertically. 2 conditions are regulated: the maximum projection of a single course and the limitations for the entire corbelled wall. A single course projection is limited to 1/2 of the individual unit height, and in no case more than 1/3 of the individual unit depth. If the projection exceeds these limitations, it is possible that the unit could fail due to its inability to carry the intended load. In addition, masonry walls are typically not permitted to be corbelled more than 50% of the chimney's wall thickness unless the projection occurs equally on each side of the wall. An unbalanced condition could potentially lead to cracking or, under extreme conditions, overturning the wall. Corbelling may only occur on the side where the wall is at least 12 inches thick. For thinner walls, the corbelling must project equally on both sides. Section 1003.9 and 1003.11. Chimneys shall not extend less than 2 feet higher than any portion of a building within 10 feet, but shall not be less than 3 feet above the highest point where the chimney passes through the roof. Masonry chimney walls shall be constructed of solid masonry units or hollow masonry units grouted solid with not less than 4-inch nominal thickness. Masonry chimneys shall be lined. A chimney must terminate some distance above a roof or other surface in order to provide for the necessary upward draft of the chimney. The minimum extensions mandated by the code, based on experience, were determined considering the possibility of downward drafts creating eddying, which neutralizes the required upward draft of the chimney, as well as flue gas temperature. Changes in direction or dimensions of the chimney are prohibited in close proximity to structural components. Such changes create the potential for leaks or cracks in the chimney wall or flue lining, providing a point for ignition of combustible members located within any concealed areas. As the diagram shows, 2 feet higher than the peak or highest portion of the roof within 10 feet horizontally, and a minimum 3 feet above the highest point of the roof where the chimney penetrates the roof. So from here, it's 3 feet up. It's at least 2 feet above this peak because it's within 10 feet horizontally. Clean out openings, section 1003.17. Clean out openings shall be provided within 6 inches of the base of each flue within every masonry chimney. See the exception for chimney flues where cleaning is possible through the fireplace opening. The upper edge of the clean out shall be located not less than 6 inches below the lowest chimney inlet opening. The height of the opening shall not be less than 6 inches. The clean out shall be provided with a non-combustible cover. The chimney interior can become coated with carbonaceous material that attacks the masonry and mortar, resulting in deposits that fall to the bottom of the chimney. Chimney cleaning also results in the accumulation of deposits at the chimney base. The deposits can be removed as necessary through the clean out opening at the base of the chimney. The opening for the chimney clean out must be provided with a tight fitting cover of cast iron or similar material. Any space or gap created by a poor fitting cover can create a hazardous condition or possibly result in a troublesome reduction in the intended draft effect. Chimney clearances, section 1003.18. Any portion of a masonry chimney located in the interior of a building or within the exterior wall of the building shall have a minimum airspace clearance to combustibles of 2 inches. Chimneys located entirely outside the exterior walls of the building, including chimneys that pass through the soffit or cornice, shall have a minimum airspace of clearance of 1 inch. See the exceptions for alternate chimney designs or systems. On account of the hot gases and products of combustion, the chimney walls become quite hot. As the heat is transferred through the masonry material, any combustible material in close proximity to the heated walls may reach the point of ignition. Thus, an airspace of limited depth must be created around the chimney to help the dissipation of heat. The depth of the airspace at a masonry chimney need not be as great where the chimney is located entirely outside the exterior walls of the dwelling. The exterior surface will remain cooler because of its direct exposure to the ambient outdoor temperature. Chimney crickets, section 1003.20. Chimneys shall be provided with crickets where the dimension parallel to the ridgeline is greater than 30 inches and does not intersect with the ridgeline. The intersection of the cricket and the chimney shall be flashed and counterflashed in the same manner as normal roof chimney intersections. Crickets shall be constructed in compliance with Figure 1003.20 and Table 1003.20. The potential for water intrusion at chimney openings and roofs is of concern, particularly where the length of the chimney wall that runs perpendicular to the roof slope is sizable. By providing a cricket, positive water flow away from the roof opening can be ensured. The use of flashing and counterflashing at a roof opening, such as a chimney, is based on their ability to prevent moisture from breaching the weather protective membrane. Where corrosion-resistant metal is used as flashing, it must be minimum number 26 galvanized sheet steel. Exterior air intake, section 1006.2. The exterior air intake for factory-built masonry fireplaces, regulated by the IRC, shall be capable of supplying all combustion air from the exterior of the dwelling or from spaces within the dwelling, ventilated with outside air, such as non-mechanically ventilated crawl or attic spaces. The exterior air intake shall not be located within the garage or basement of the dwelling. The exterior air intake for other than listed factory-built fireplaces shall not be located at an elevation higher than the firebox. The exterior air intake shall be covered with a corrosion-resistant screen of 1/4-inch mesh. So unless it's impossible to mechanically ventilate and control the indoor pressure of a room in which a fireplace is located so that the pressure remains neutral or positive, both factory-built and masonry fireplaces must have an exterior air supply. The presence of a complying exterior air intake allows for an adequate supply of combustion air to that fireplace. Combustion air ducts are regulated for clearance, size, and location. The outlet may be located in the back or sides of the firebox chamber, or as an alternative, located on or near the floor within a distance of 24 inches of the firebox opening. Diagram shows it on the side here, coming in and going ahead and coming through the fireplace. All right, so we're going to move on to the energy efficient chapter, chapter 11. This one is going to cover IRC chapter N1101. So, chapter 11 regulates the energy efficiency for the design and construction of buildings regulated by the IRC. Note, the text of the sections N1101.2 through N1113 parallels the text of the 2021 edition of the International Energy Conservation Code, Residential Provisions, the IECC-R. The section numbers appearing in parentheses after each section number are the section numbers of the corresponding text in the IECC-R. The energy efficiency provisions of the IRC enable the effective use of energy in new dwelling construction by regulating the building envelope, mechanical systems, electrical systems, and surface water heating systems. In the IECC, residential buildings are defined as detached 1- and 2-family dwellings and multiple single-family dwellings like townhouses and group R2, R3, and R4 buildings 3 stories or less in height above grade plane. To provide consistency and coordination, IRC Chapter 11 includes the IECC residential provisions applicable to residential construction that fall under the scope of the IRC. Climate zones. So climate zones from figure N1101.7 or table N1101.7 shall be used in determining the applicable requirements in section N1101 through N1113. In table N1101.7, warm humid counties are identified by an asterisk. Locations not indicated in table N1101.7 shall be assigned a climate zone in accordance with section N1101.7.2. The tropical climate region shall be defined as 1. Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, American Samoa, U.S. Virgin Islands, Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, and 2. The islands in the area between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. The IRC approach to energy efficiency compliance utilizes climate zones that are assigned to geographical areas of the United States based on multiple climate variables that address both cooling and heating considerations. The climate zone for the building under consideration is the basis for numerous requirements. The 8 climate zones have been divided into subcategories of marine, dry, and moist to deal with varying levels of humidity. In addition, the southeastern portion of the country is designated as warm humid, which results in specialized requirements. Yeah, all of this would be warm humid. So Installation and fenestration products, IRC N1101.10.1 and N1101.10.3. An R-value identification mark shall be applied by the manufacturer to each piece of building thermal envelope insulation 12 inches or greater in width. Alternately, the insulation installers shall provide a certification listing the type, manufacturer, and R-value of insulation installed in each element of the building thermal envelope. U-factors of fenestration products such as windows, doors, and skylights shall be determined in accordance with NFRC 100. See the exception for garage doors, also permitting determination in accordance with NFRC 100 or ANSI DASMA 105. Products lacking such a labeled U-factor shall be assigned a default U-factor from tables N1101.10.3 parentheses 1 or N1101.10.3 parentheses 2. So the IRC requires certification of the installed density and R value of blown in or sprayed in insulation in the wall cavities. Where installed in the attic, certification must include both the initial installed thickness and the settled thickness, the coverage area, and the number of bags of insulating material installed. Markers that indicate 1 inch high numbers the installed thickness of the insulation must be provided for every 300 square feet of attic area attached to the trusses, rafters, or joists. Fenestration includes skylights, roof windows, vertical windows, opaque doors, glazed doors, glass block, and combination opaque glazed doors. The U-factor for fenestration products shall be established in accordance with National Fenestration Rating Council, NFRC 100. Section N1101.14. A permanent certificate shall be completed by the builder or other approved party and posted on a wall in the space where the furnace is located, a utility room, or an approved location inside the building. The certificate shall indicate the 7 specified types of information listed as applicable. The requirement mandating that energy-related information be provided on a certificate and that certificate be prominently posted is intended to encourage an increased awareness of the energy efficiency ratings for various building elements. The energy efficiency of the building as a system is a function of many elements considered as parts of a whole, and it is almost always impossible to have a proper identification and analysis of a building's energy efficiency once the structure is completed. Where the certificate is located on the electrical panel, it must be positioned so that it does not cover or obstruct the visibility of the circuit directory label, service disconnect label, or other required labels. Insulation and fenestration criteria, section N1102.1.2 and N1102.1.3. The building thermal envelope shall meet the requirements of table N1102.1.2 based on the climate zone specified in section N1101.7. Assemblies with R-value insulation materials equal to or greater than that specified in table N1102.1.3 shall be an alternative to the U-factor in table N1102.1.2. The insulation and fenestration requirements are established based upon 2 criteria: the type of building component and the climate zone in which the building is located. In addition to the maximum U-factor, fenestration, and skylight ratings, minimum insulation R values are established for ceilings, wood frame walls, mass walls, floors, basement walls, slabs, and crawl space walls. A total UA, which is the sum of the U-factor times assembly area, method allows for comparing the entire building thermal envelope UA to the sum of the individual U factors. If the total UA is equivalent or less than the sum of the individual U factors, then the building is considered in compliance. Air leakage, section N1102.4. The building thermal envelope shall be constructed to limit air leakage. The sealing methods between dissimilar materials shall allow for differential expansion and contraction. The components of the building thermal envelope, as indicated in Table N1102.4.1.1, shall be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instruction and the criteria listed in Table N1102.4.1.1 as applicable. Where required by the building official, an approved third party shall inspect all components and verify compliance. The building or dwelling unit shall be tested for air leakage. Sealing the building envelope is critical to good thermal performance of the building. It will prevent warm, conditioned air from leaking out around doors, windows, or other cracks during the heating season, thereby reducing the cost of heating the residence. During the hot summer months, proper sealing will stop hot air from entering the residence, helping to reduce the air conditioning load. Special attention must be paid during the construction process to ensure that any penetration in the building envelope is thoroughly sealed. This includes holes made for plumbing, electrical, and HVAC systems. In addition, all joints and airflow retarders must be taped for continuity. All right, it is time for the quiz. It's time to make sure you have your code book open, and I will ask the question. I want you to pause the video at that time and come back and answer the question. Question number 1. The footing for a masonry fireplace and its chimney shall be a minimum of how thick? 6 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches, or 12 inches? Footing of the masonry fireplace. The answer is D, 12 inches thick. That footing must be 12 inches thick. Section R 1001.2. Number 2. A masonry chimney wall shall not change size or shape for a minimum of how far above or below where the chimney passes through floor, ceiling, or roof components? 6 inches, 12 inches, 24 inches, or 30 inches? The answer is A, 6 inches, which is R 1003.6. Masonry chimney wall shall not change size or shape for a minimum of 6 inches above or below where the chimney passes through floor, ceiling, or roof components. Number 3. In all cases, a masonry chimney shall extend a minimum of how far above the highest point where the chimney passes through the roof? Is that 12 inches, 18 inches, 24 inches, or 36 inches? How high above the highest point must the chimney pass through the roof? Our answer is D, 36 inches. Section 1003.9. Number 4. A clay flue liner for a masonry chimney shall be carried vertically with a maximum permitted slope of how many degrees from the vertical? 15 degrees, 22.5 degrees, 30 degrees, and 45 degrees. Our answer is C, 30 degrees from the vertical, maximum permitted slope, section 1003.12. Number 5. When 2 or more flues are located in the same masonry chimney, the adjacent flue lining shall be separated by masonry withes having a minimum thickness of what? 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, or 8 inches? Our answer is B, 4 inches. Section R 1003.13. Number 6, unless cleaning is possible through the fireplace opening, a clean-out opening shall be provided within how close of the base of a flue masonry chimney? 6 inches, 8 inches, 12 inches, or 18 inches? Our answer is A, 6 inches. It's got to be within 6 inches of the base of the flue in a masonry chimney. Section 1003.17. Number 7, where a masonry chimney is constructed totally outside the exterior walls of a dwelling, a minimum airspace clearance to the combustibles of how far is required? How far away from combustibles is it required? 0 inches, no clearance is required. Half an inch, 1 inch, or 2 inches? Our answer is C, 1 inch. That's a masonry chimney constructed totally outside of the exterior walls, has a minimum airspace clearance to combustibles of 1 inch. Section 1003.18. Number 8. Foundations for masonry fireplaces and their chimneys shall extend a minimum of how far beyond the face of the fireplace or support walls on all sides? 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, or 12 inches? Our answer is B, 6 inches. Section R 1001.2. Number 9. Where a 60-inch wide masonry chimney and fireplace are located in seismic design category D1, the chimney shall be reinforced with how many number 4 continuous vertical reinforcing bars? 0, which means no reinforcements required. 2, 4, or 6, number 4 continuous vertical reinforcing bars? Our answer is D, 6, number 4 continuous vertical reinforcing bars. Section R 1001.3.1. Number 10. What is the minimum required thickness of the back and side walls of a masonry firebox constructed of solid masonry without fire brick lining? Again, what is the minimum required thickness of the back and side walls of a masonry firebox constructed of solid masonry without a fire brick lining? Is it 6 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches, or 12 inches? Our answer is C, 10 inches. That back wall has to be a minimum 10 inches thick, back and side walls. Section R 1001.5. Number 11. Where fire bricks are used as lining for a masonry fireplace, the maximum joint spacing shall be how far between bricks? Is that 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, or 1/2 inch? Our answer is B, 1/4 inch. Find that in section 1001.5. Where fire bricks are used as lining for a masonry fireplace, the maximum joint spacing shall be 1/4 inch between fire bricks. Cannot go any thicker than 1/4 inch. Number 12. The damper or throat for a masonry fireplace shall be located a minimum of how many inches above the lintel supporting masonry over the fireplace opening? The damper or throat for a masonry fireplace shall be located a minimum of how many inches above the lintel supporting masonry over the fireplace opening? Is it 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, or 12 inches? Our answer is C, 8 inches. You're going to find that in section R1001.7. Number 13. What is the minimum required thickness for the hearth of a masonry fireplace? Is it 3/8 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch, 2 inches, or 4 inches? The minimum required thickness for the hearth of a masonry fireplace. The answer is D, 4 inches. Got to remember the hearth is the actual floor of the fireplace. The reference section R1001.9.1. Number 14. What is the minimum required size of a hearth extension for a masonry fireplace having a 30-inch high by 42-inch wide fireplace opening? Minimum required size. Is it 16 by 42 inches, 16 by 58 inches, 20 by 58 inches, or 20 by 66 inches? Our answer is D, 20 by 66 inches. Get that in section 1001.10. 15. A minimum 3/8 inch thick non-combustible hearth extension is permitted for a masonry fireplace where the bottom of the firebox opening is a minimum of how many inches above the top of the hearth extension? Is it 6 inches, 8 inches, 12 inches, or 15 inches? Our answer is B, 8 inches. Get that in section 1001.9.2, the exception. Number 16. Wood studs shall have a minimum clearance of how many inches from the back face of a masonry fireplace? 0 inches, no clearance is required. 1 inch, 2 inches, or 4 inches? Our answer is D, 4 inches. Section 1001.11. Number 17. When masonry chimneys are constructed as part of masonry walls, combustible materials in contact with the masonry wall must be located a minimum of how many inches from the inside surface of the nearest flue lining? Is it 4 inches, 6 inches, 12 inches, or 30 inches? Our answer is C, 12 inches. You're going to get that in section 1003.18, the exception number 2. Number 18. Combustible trim projecting a distance of 1 inch beyond the fireplace opening of a masonry fireplace shall be located a minimum of how many inches from the opening? 2 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, or 12 inches? Combustible trim projecting a distance of 1 inch beyond the fireplace opening. That must be located a minimum of C, 8 inches from the opening. Section 1001.11, exception number 4. Number 19. Factory-built fireplaces shall be tested in accordance with ASTM C199, ASTM C315, UL 103, or UL 127. Answer is D, UL 127. We're going to find that in section 1004.1. Number 20. Unless the room is mechanically ventilated and controlled so that the indoor pressure is neutral or positive, means that the pressure is blowing out, a combustion air passageway having a minimum size of how many square inches and a maximum size of how many square inches shall be provided as an exterior air supply for a factory-built or masonry fireplace. Is it 6 and 25, 6 and 55, 25 and 55, or 25 and 75? Our answer is B, 6 and 55, section 1006.4. So unless the room is mechanically ventilated and controlled so that the indoor pressure is neutral or positive, a combustion air passageway having a minimum size of 6 square inches and a maximum size of 55 square inches shall be provided as an exterior air supply for a factory-built or masonry fireplace. Gotta have air intake into that fireplace. Number 21. Unless a certification is provided by the insulation installers, an R-value identification mark shall be applied by the manufacturer to each piece of building thermal envelope insulation that is a minimum of how many inches wide? 12, 15, 18, or 22? Our answer is A, anything more than minimum 12 inches wide. Section N 1101.10.1. Exposed insulation applied to the exterior of basement walls shall be protected with a covering that extends a minimum of how many inches below grade? 6, 12, 18, or 24? Answer is A, 16. You'll find that in section N 1101.11.1. Number 23. In climate zone 2, what is the minimum R value required for a wood frame exterior wall when using the R value alternative method for the building thermal envelope? Again, in climate zone 2, what is the minimum R value required for a wood frame exterior wall when using the R value alternative method for the building thermal envelope? Is it 11, 13, or 0 plus 10, 15, or 20, or 0 plus 15? Our answer is B, 13, or 0 plus 10. And that comes from table N 1102.1.3. Number 24. Other than site-built elements, windows, skylights, and sliding glass doors shall have a maximum air infiltration rate of how many CFM per square foot? 0.05, 0.1, 0.3, or 1.0? The answer is C, 0.3, section N 1102.4.3. Number 25. Where located outside of conditioned space, 3-inch diameter supply ducts and attics shall be insulated to a minimum of R6, R8, R11, or R13. Our answer is B, R8. Find that section 1103.3.1. Number 26. Which of the following 16 inches on center cold form steel frame insulated wall assemblies is equivalent to an R20 wood frame insulated wall? R13 plus 7.7, R13 plus 8.9, R15 plus 7.2, or R19 plus 6.3? Our answer is B, R13 plus 8.9. Find that in table N 1102.2.6. Number 27. The net free area of a spark arrestor for a masonry chimney shall be a minimum of how many times the net free area of the outlet of the chimney fluid serves? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Our answer is D, 4. Must be 4 times the net free area of the outlet of the chimney fluid serves. Section R 1003.9.2, number 1. Number 28. Where a 54-inch wide masonry chimney is constructed above a roof having a slope of 812, a required cricket shall have a minimum height of how many inches? 9 inches, 13.5 inches, 18 inches, or 27 inches? 54-inch wide masonry chimney? The answer is C, 18 inches. We'll get that in table R1003.20. Number 29. Except for Rumford fireplaces, the firebox of a masonry fireplace shall have a minimum depth of how many inches? 12, 18, 20, or 24? Our answer is C, 20 inches deep. Section 1001.6. Number 30. In general, a minimum clearance of how many inches is required between the outside surface of a masonry heater and combustible materials? 6 inches, 12 inches, 18 inches, or 36 inches? Our answer is D, 36 inches. Section 1002.5. Number 31. Where a steel fireplace unit incorporating a steel firebox lining is installed with solid masonry to form a masonry fireplace, it shall be constructed with a minimum how many inch steel? Is it 1/8 inch, 3/16 inch, 1/4 inch, or 5/16? Our answer is C, 1/4 inch steel. Section 1001.5.1. Number 32. A Rumford fireplace shall have a minimum fireplace depth of how many inches where the fireplace opening is 42 inches in width? Rumford fireplace shall have a minimum fireplace depth of how many inches where the fireplace opening is 42 inches in width? Is it 12, 14, 15, or 20? The answer is B, 14 inches in depth. Section 1001.6, exception. Number 33. Where the hearth extension for a masonry fireplace is located at the same level as the bottom of the firebox opening, the minimum required thickness of the hearth extension is how many inches? 3/8, 2 inches, 3 inches, or 4 inches? Our answer is B, 4 inches. Get that in section 1001.9.2. Number 34. Unlisted combustion air ducts installed to serve a factory-built or masonry fireplace shall be installed with a minimum how many inch clearance to combustibles for those portions of the duct within how many feet of the duct outlet? Is it 1 inch and 5 feet, 1 inch and 10 feet, 2 inches and 5 feet, or 2 inches and 10 feet? The answer is A, 1 inch and 5 feet, section 1006.3. So an unlisted combustion air ducts installed to serve a factory-built or masonry fireplace shall be installed with a minimum 1 inch clearance to combustibles for those portions of the duct within 5 feet of the duct outlet. Number 35. The thickness of blown-in cellulose roof ceiling insulation shall be provided on markers installed throughout the attic space at a minimum rate of 1 marker for every how many square feet? Is it 100, 200, 300, or 500 square feet? Our answer is C, every 300 square feet. Get that in section N1101.10.1.1. And that brings us to the close of study session 9. I want to thank you for joining me in this study session. I hope you learned a lot, and I look forward to seeing you again in study session 10.